Hello Year 11, so this is just following on from the Haiti video. This is your example of an earthquake in a high income country. So this is Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand, and again this is for the section A topic, the challenge of natural hazards in paper 1. So New Zealand is located in the continent of Oceania, it's just east of Australia. And the earthquake happened on the 22nd of February 2011 at 12:51. Again, just remember it as 2011, just like you've got Haiti as 2010. Now, the earthquake occurred on the South Island, which was about 10 kilometres to the west of Christchurch in an area called Canterbury. It was around 10 seconds long. Again, like Haiti, we're talking about a conservative plate margin. So this time it's the Pacific plate and the Australian plate rubbing against each other. And the release of the pressure resulted in a 6.3 on the Richter scale. So slightly lower than Haiti, but still quite a substantial earthquake. So the primary effects of this earthquake were 185 people dying. And most of those deaths occurred in the 6-storey Canterbury television building, which collapsed and ended up catching fire during the earthquake. 3,000 people were injured. There was lots of building damage to the central city and eastern suburbs of Christchurch, and this damage was made worse by buildings and infrastructure being weakened by an earthquake that happened on the 4th of September. So this earthquake was actually an aftershock. Up to 100,000 buildings were damaged and 10,000 buildings needed to be demolished. Water pipes, roads, bridges, power lines, cell towers, and ordinary phone lines were broken or damaged, and 50% of the central city's buildings severely damaged, including the famous city's cathedral, which lost the spire. Secondary effects then, so overall it cost about $40 billion. 80% of the water and sewerage system was severely damaged. There were lots of psychological impacts from a survey that happened in 2013. 80% of respondents said that their lives had changed quite significantly since the earthquake, and a third said that they had financial problems from it. Christchurch could no longer hold the Rugby World Cup because of the earthquake, and that led to lots of benefits being lost, such as tourism and the income that would bring, and schools were approximately closed for about 2 weeks due to the damage. So if you think those primary and secondary effects are nowhere near as sizable as the amount of people that were affected in the Haiti earthquake. In terms of responses, then, remember we're talking to HIC, so they are going to be better prepared for things like this. So they did receive international aid, so around $6 to $7 million of aid. The Red Cross and other charities supplied aid as well, so people went over quite quickly. Rescue crews from all over the world, including UK, USA, Taiwan, Australia, provided support. 300 Australian police officers flew to Christchurch 3 days after the earthquake. And those groups of people were mainly doing the search and rescue, sorry. And then 30,000 residents were provided with chemical toilets. And there was pretty much an emergency response plan put in place within 2 hours, and bottled water were handed out almost immediately. So again, if you compare that to what the responses were like in Haiti, very, very different, and that obviously will lead to less people being affected and certainly less people dying. Long-term responses then, so they had a cash for work programme to rebuild the city a lot faster. There was around 10,000 affordable homes being built within a year of the earthquake. Water and sewage was restored by August 2011, and many non-governmental organisations provided support. So charities such as Save the Children supported the children with the fact that they weren't going to school in those couple of weeks. And then they created the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority. So this was created to organise the rebuilding of the region, and they had special powers to change the planning laws and regulations. So again, very different to those long-term responses for Haiti. In terms of an exam question then, this one again Could include Haiti being used as well as obviously Christchurch. So it says assess the extent to which primary effects are more significant than secondary effects. So assess the extent means to make an informed judgment. It's very similar to what extent. It's just that you're making a judgment about something rather than saying how far you agree with it. Obviously, primary effects are the things that happen during the earthquake, and you're saying are they more significant to those secondary effects that happen after the earthquake? And remember, significant means were they more important? Were they more catastrophic? Did they do more damage? In terms of your structure, then, so obviously, same introduction, how far do you agree, and introduce the case study that you're using. Paragraph 1, talk about what the primary effects were. Think about your AO3, how significant were they? And then for paragraph 2, would the secondary effects be more important or be just as important? And then in conclusion, make a judgment and summarize your key points. One thing to remember when it comes to talking about what you're more important with primary and secondary effects are a lot of the time, remember, the secondary effects wouldn't have happened without the primary effects happening in the first place. So that essentially means that those primary effects are more significant because a lot of the time they lead to those secondary effects.